everybody, and welcome to another edition of Wake Up with Baseball in New York. We are live for the next 2 hours here on July 11th, 2020. I am your host, Jim, along with our co-host, Mac and Matt. Guys, how are you doing today?
I'm doing real good there, Jim. Just up early, trying to get some stuff for the show done. Did another a late night at the restaurant where I work, and a little not a lot tired, a little tired. Took a shower, feel fresh. I'm ready to rock today.
Took a shower. All right, Matt, how are you this morning? Matt looks like he's alive.
Boys, we're here. We made it. I'm better at being on time for this than I am at being on time for work. I'll tell you that. All right. We're doing good today, man. I'm ready. I'm excited.
Wow. I don't want to, hopefully your work never checks in. I don't want, I don't want them to have.
It's okay. I'm salary. They don't care what time I show up.
They don't have bad things to say, So so today we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. We got to talk about the Mets. We're going to talk about the Yankees, a little MLB, a little bit of everything in there today. We'll start right at the top with the biggest news, and that is that, as expected last week, the biddings were put in for the Mets. Now, they said there were 5 bids, but 3 of them looked close enough that they were going to proceed to the second round of bidding, I guess you could say, or where they were going to, kind of do some research and see what was going on. According to what reports, Steve Cohen was the leading bid. He bid $2 million on the Mets, $2 billion. I'm sorry. Ooh, $2 million. $2 billion on the Mets, and he bid $2 billion on the SNY for a total of $4 billion. Now, whether SNY is sold or not is another story. That's a different story, whether that happens or not, based on whether they want to sell SNY or not. A-Rod and J-Lo came in around 1.7. The other group, the one that has a piece of the Devils, came in 1.7. There's a lot of other stuff I want to talk about with the bids, but before we get to that, I just want to touch base with you two and hear what you think about just the bids themselves before I get into more details.
Well, I go ahead, Matt. You go first.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the bids are concerned, I think they're fair bids for the team considering the value of the Mets franchise and the kind of revenue they bring in on a season basis. I think they're willing to take a little less from Jennifer Lopez and A-Rod, just due to the fact that they're the involvement in the community and the potential for exposure in the community. Yeah, I think they're still upset with Cohen.
Listen, I agree with you to a point. I think, I guess the Wilpons with the owners is going to make the final decision. And if there's any personal grudges or any animosity towards any of these bidders, maybe there is. I mean, Cohen, go ahead and he folded up and he left after that unreasonable one of the reasonable terms that the Wilpons put on him about, that they wanted to run the Mets after he bought them. So there might be animosity there. I'm not sure. And with the owners, okay, the owners with this next bargaining agreement coming on, whether there'll be a strike or whether there'll be a lockout, they're going to be looking for somebody that is willing to side with them. That's that wants to be an agreement with them. So when this bargaining agreement comes up next year, the owners have a strong nucleus to negotiate with the players. So I think there's a couple other things in there that are going to be taken into consideration just besides the money part of it.
See, now it's interesting because you kind of helped me out and segued into my next point. Originally, a report came out, as Matt had already said, where it was being reported that they might possibly prefer to sell the A-Rod and J-Lo if the bids were close. However, yesterday it came out with someone very close to the Wilpons who said that's not true. They're going to sell. Not only is that not true, that they're going to sell to the highest bidder, it's going to be Cohen. You can forget everybody else already because the Wilpons have already moved into the stage of where they're now privately negotiating with just Steve Cohen, because he bid so much more money than everyone else. They might not sell SNY. They don't have to. Cohen did. It wasn't a I have to get SNY also, or I'm not doing it. That's not what Cohen did. He said, I'll give you this, but I'll also give you this for SNY, but he kind of put him in his two separate bids. So if the Wilpons want to keep SNY, he doesn't, at the end of the day, doesn't really care. He wants the Mets. But, it's a revolving situation with new updates almost every hour. And according to what I read this morning and what I was told this morning is that at this point, a lot of people think some of the bidders are actually going to back down now because the Cohens and Wilpons are now talking privately. So, and nobody has enough money to keep up with him. If he wants him, if it comes down to money, nobody can top him. He's got more. Now, what they did say was going to happen is, because some people feel like Justin mentioned, they said, most fans want Cohen. Some people feel, the Wilpons, since they always like to screw us fans, will find a way to get in there and, take A-Rod and J-Lo. Because even though we'd like A-Rod and J-Lo, they would be cash strapped when they took over. So right now, what the MLB is what the Wilpons are doing is they plan this week to get into tell the commissioner what's going on and have the commissioner send out feelers to the owner, because you need 2/3 approval of the owners. They send out feelers to the owners to see if Cohen would get approved. A lot of people believe that Cohen's already done that step and doesn't think it'll be a problem. As Mac had mentioned, all they really care about is that they know Cohen's in their corner. Other than that, that's fine. So a lot of things revolving around this. Mac, let me ask you, as you started, I mean, this would be great news for the Mets, but everyone's got to realize also that he wouldn't take over ownership till close to the end of the year, till when the winter meetings start is the goal. Right. So everyone will just need to sit back and relax and let it, run its course.
Yeah, well, like you're saying, I mean, it's very important that, we got that bargaining agreement coming up. And, I mean, there's something has to be done as far as, I think, in my opinion anyway, about salary caps and the teams all kind of working together. And of course, the players aren't going to be happy with kind of the way this year worked out. It's, with the virus and having to renegotiate the contract there. So they're going to be going at it next year. And, the owners, like you said, the 2/3 majority to approve this. So they're going to want to know. And Cohen, as you said, Cohen has probably already reached out to them and talked to them and making sure the owner's making sure that he's going to be with that. He's going to be with them when this all hits the fan. There's another thing in there too, Jim, about this. I don't know if you're going to talk about it or not, but this Mick Warder group. He's a CEO of Central USA. He tried to get in there and make a bid, even though he wasn't approved. And he's African American, and I didn't know if this would affect it at all, even though he wasn't pre-approved, because this would be a huge thing in baseball to have the first African American as an owner. So I didn't know if that would have played any part or not, or if that was just to push the bid up. So it was an interesting thing.
You said he wasn't approved, right? Because this is the first person that's telling me this name. So I'm assuming he didn't even get to the bidding spot. Because if
he wasn't approved, then
he's already eliminated.
No, he wasn't pre-approved, but he did say he wanted to get involved in it, which was an interesting sidebar that this guy comes out of nowhere after the bidding has already stopped, basically, and said, "Hey, I'd like to make a bid on this too." And like I said, it was just an interesting thing I read.
Yeah, that's first I've heard about that. I know Matt has been on the show talking about he thought they would want to go A-Rod and J-Lo, just to kind of get, the culture and everything in there and the home ground. But I think you're seeing that at the end of the day, and this is why I mentioned the other day, is that it's all just comes down to money. They don't really care about the culture and who has it. It's about money. Money talks, So, I mean, I don't know. A part of me, Matt, thinks the Wilpons will keep SNY, and I don't really care if they do. As long as they sell the team, I don't care if they keep SNY. I don't care if they keep a couple hot dog stands. I don't really care what they do.
Yep, I think SNY is going to be the kicker here, where Cohen could lose the bid. SNY would be the reason he didn't get the team, because if he wants full control of SNY and the Wilpons are insisting on keeping control of SNY, that could be their sticking point, period. And if J-Lo and A-Rod are willing to say, hey, keep the network, we don't care about SNY, we just want the team, You know, that might send them that way. Now, J Lo's net worth by herself 750 million. We know A Rod's not that kind of realm as far, even though he made a ton of money as a
I think
baseball
they're
player.
750 together, actually.
Yeah, they're okay, right. So they're not even in the ballpark of a guy like a Steve Cohen. So he could really just overpower them financially. If he decides, he's like, you know what, put this to bed. I'm going to offer you $5.5 billion dollars for the team. You know, nobody's going to come in there and say no to that. So he's going to have to overpower them financially. But if it comes down to the SNY part, I believe that the advantage goes to
Well, yeah,
uh,
if
Alex
it's
Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez. You know,
well, according to reports that came out late last night, is from Cohen's people, is Cohen didn't tell them I need to have SNY. He made it as a separate offer and said, if you want to sell SNY, but that he also told them, if you don't, I don't care. He doesn't care about SNY. He just made the offer because if they want to get out completely, it's there for them. If they don't, so be it. They can have SNY. The most important part of the whole thing, though, is that the Wilpons are going to sell the team without holding on to any control of it. And a lot of people need to keep in mind, it shouldn't be too hard, no matter what you read, for Cohen to get approved from the owners, because people forget Cohen already owns 8% of the Mets. So he's
Yeah.
been a quiet investor in the league and hasn't caused any issues and hasn't caused any waves. And another thing you want to factor in too is that reports came out last night that, and you said it, Matt just said it, the money. Cohen has the most money at the end of the day. The reports came out last night and said now that Cohen is talking back with the Wilpons independently, there is no chance he's going to lose the team. He'll bid whatever it takes to bid to buy the team. He's not going to let it fall apart again. So I think it's just a matter of when it gets done, Cohen. But I think at the end of the day, I think barring some kind of like them getting in a heated thing where he walks away, it's going to be his team.
Well, if you think about it too, guys, that the $2 billion for SNY just told the Wilpons that he can give them $4 billion. You know, that's $2 billion extra. So if you want to keep SNY, that's fine. But that $2 billion, just that one offer, told the Wilpons, hey, I'm willing to go almost $4 billion just for the Mets.
Yeah. So I mean, this is good stuff because this is what the Mets fans need, and we just have to hope that the Wilpons' pride doesn't get in the way. Because that's people forget. People tend to forget that back around the Madoff time, back in the day, the Mets almost sold they almost sold a majority stake in their team. They were going to keep on to some, but they almost sold a majority stake. And then this guy wound up showing up. I've talked about this before. The guy wound up, it was going around the news. Fans are getting exciting. The guy showed up to a Met game. He was in the stands. The cameras panned to him. It was a sold-out game. They gave him a standing ovation, and then the Wilpons got jealous. Like, wait a second, why are we going to sell this? Because the Wilpons, at the end of the day, if we're just being honest, Wilpons don't give a crap about anybody. They're selfish individuals, and they backed out. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. Hopefully the Wilpons do not let their pride get in the way of screwing fans out of having the type of owner that'll go nuts and spend money, which is what we need. We're in New York. We're not playing in Syracuse.
who do you think knows how to build a better baseball team? Do you think it would be Alex Rodriguez, or do you think it would be Steve Cohen, who's never played baseball?
I think it's Steve Cohen. I mean, think about what you just said. Well, who knows how to build a team? But every owner, 90% of the owners, 95% of the owners never play baseball anyway. Wilpons never play baseball, but you know what it is? You can't build a team without money. And that's the problem. See, A-Rod and J-Lo, if they got the team, if you told me today, Cohen gets in an argument, it falls apart, and I'm not going to be upset because I'll take anybody. I've told you that. Anyone's better than the Wilpons. But A-Rod and J-Lo, there's two things working against them. Number one, everybody knows this, that the Mets lose money every year. They make a profit on SNY, but they lose money on the team. So they have to figure out a way to turn it around. So the minute A-Rod and J-Lo come in, they're not going to have extra cash to go and buy free agents right away. Let's say Real Muto does hit the market. They can't afford to go get them because then they'll be more in debt. The other thing going against them, I think also, is that with them, the MLB has to deal with 6 or 7 people because that's how many people, like 5, 6 people, put in money towards this transaction. And even though one person would be the head, all these people still have a vote when they're trying to do something. But Cohen is just one guy. He doesn't have to call anybody and say, I want to put $350 million on Mookie Betts or whoever. He just tells the GM, this is who I want. Go get him.
Just to do it.
End the story.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, so that's what's exciting about this. But hope, everyone was on. I saw people on Facebook like, let's get it done. Let's get that. Everyone's got to slow down. When you're talking about $2 billion, they've got to look through his financials. Then they got to know the owners are going to sign off. Then they got to start the process of putting a deposit down. It's almost like buying a house, only a lot more expensive. This is a long process. And the reason the Wilpons put the date in now to get those bids is so that they could have it done by the time the winter meetings roll around. So that tells you that even once they accept a bid, this is a 4 to 5 month process. So the Wilpons are going to own the Mets regardless through this season. The idea is to get somebody in place for next season when the free agents hit the market. You know what I mean? So you'll see what some of the fans had to say today as we scroll up. We say good morning to Tyrone and Justin. I don't know why I ever got away from saying good morning to everybody. Good morning to Robert. All right. So Robert says the Wilpons would be fools if they turned down Steve Cohen's $4 billion offer. That's what a lot of people on the news have said. Justin says most of the fans want Cohen. They feel like the Wilpons will screw us. That's a common thing. Al liked my hot dog comment. Let's see. Michael says I am one of my friend that hopes A-Rod doesn't pick up the team as he's not a fan of A-Rod doing steroids and then owning a team, which is legit. I mean, I'm sure
there'll be a lot of controversy.
Yeah, he's not the only person who feels that way. Cohen could buy the team and start his own network and just cancel SNY. I'd have to look into the legal side of that. I don't know if he could do that. I mean, I guess anything's possible. SNY is a pretty good network, though. So, I mean, I don't know. Jim, if I had the type of money to buy the team, I want the team in the SNY network. So Robert's saying, if he's got, he wants it both or nothing. He thinks that's how Cohen should be. It's both or nothing. But I don't think, while I understand where he's coming from, and I'm going to read more comments here, I understand where Robert's coming from. At the same time, if you're Cohen, would you throw the team away just for a stupid television network? I mean, your lifelong favorite team. This is a once in a lifetime chance. If
the team is not producing money, and you need SNY to monetize the team, does he have a choice? He might have to take SNY. Now he doesn't need the backing of SNY, obviously, but if they're depending on SNY to fund the team, basically, because the team is losing money because of these horrible contracts that they put out there.
Well, the team's not losing money because of the contracts. The team's losing money because we start catchers like Rene Rivera. And how do you
horrible contracts
sell out?
He
doesn't make any money. Rene Rivera makes like the league minimum, but he hits
Diaz.
How do you expect Met fans to show up and watch Rene Rivera be your starting catcher? I mean, in the past, nobody wants to do that. So Justin says he's Wilpon's a shady dude. Alex says he's late. Good morning. Michael agrees. He thinks it's going to be Cohen. Steve says they don't care. They will sell it to A-Rod. He does not Steve Cohen to succeed. That's not what the reports say, Steve. Chuck says A-Rod has no chance. And Alexander says Steinbrenner's never selling. Well, yeah, we know that. So we're getting closer. I mean, I don't know. It depends what report you want to believe on the news. I mean, there's reports saying now that Cohen and the Wilpons are negotiating exclusively. I don't know if that's accurate. Cohen are telling the news that they believe the other bidders will drop out. I find that hard to believe. Like if you came this far, if you're A-Rod and J-Lo, you came this far with your group, you had to bust ass to get the funding. Would you just because you heard the Wilpons are taking a meeting with Cohen to discuss details, you would back out? I don't necessarily think so. I think you would try to put in another bid, right? Unless realistically you can't get any more funding than that, unless 1.7 is your cap.
Well, didn't they have like 7 that were pre-approved for the bidding, Jim? So I think
but 5 put in bids.
So I would imagine the ones that are lower on the spectrum would be the ones that would be dropping off. If I'm A-Rod or if I'm one of the other ones that were offering 1.7, the name escapes me right now. 1.7 billion for the Mets. I would still be in there trying to get more backing if I could, or talking to people. So I don't think it's just Cohen right now by himself, but he's the main one in here. So that's who they. I don't blame the Wilpons taking a meeting. They might take a meeting.
Nobody bid over 1.7, but Cohen of the
right
that bid. Two guys, I guess, just didn't even bid. They were pre-approved, but did not submit a bid. Another thing, if you're A-Rod and J-Lo and you look at it like this, or you're the guy who owns a piece of the Devils, because he's the other one that's been confirmed as 1.7. They didn't confirm the other two. You look at it from this guy. Let's say, J-Lo and A-Rod go out and somehow find another partner to put in another $300 million to get you up to $2 billion. Then Cohen just goes 2.2. You lost again. That's the problem. That they can't. There's no amount of money they can go find that can outbid the guy unless A-Rod and J-Lo at the end of the day can go out and get enough funding where they're going to severely overpay. Like if you want to say they'll go out and find 3 more co-bidders with them and they'll bid 2.8 billion. Yeah, then Cohen would probably back down because at the end of the day, he's a businessman. And if he was going to only bid 2.6 before the coronavirus, he's not going to bid 2.8 now. But do you really want A-Rod and J-Lo to go overbid so badly for a team that they're in debt and can't spend any money? I mean,
well, suppose they combine with the other partners that bid $1.7 million and make it a trust, and all of a sudden they're up to $3 billion. So
yeah, and then you just paid more for the Mets than it would cost you to get the Yankees. Why would do that?
Again, I mean, this is you're just saying how could somebody do that? Well, that's one way. I mean, they may have to overbid for him if they want him that bad.
If two groups came together and paid more for the Mets than it cost to buy the Yankees, I'm switching to the Yankees. That would be the absolute dumbest idea. We would be in debt forever. Yeah. We wouldn't even be able to re-sign Alonso when it's time. We just
honestly. Jim, the more I listen to you talk about it and the more I look at it, man, it probably does just make more sense for Cohen to be the owner of the team. I think it would be cleaner for the league. I think it'd be cleaner for the Mets as an organization. I think it might be a better transition, a smoother transition. So I think now that talking through it a little bit and kind of listening to what you're saying has kind of got me on the side of you might be better off with Cohen just based on the financial aspect of it, the free agent aspect of it, the team building side of it. Do I feel like Rodriguez and his team would probably know more quality in players and things like that, be better with scouting, things like that? I think so, but I think maybe you're right. I believe you're right when it comes down to the money aspect of it. That might be the kicker.
Because you look at it too, and you look at it from this perspective, because you brought up the point about who knows more about team. Well, Steve Cohen is not, he's going to have a GM. He's going to have people who do know about that stuff. He's not going to do it. He's just going to.
Brody going to do it? Is it going to be Brody?
That's a good question. Robert asked, do you think he'd keep Brody? I don't know, but I think a lot of it has to do with let's see how the Mets do this year. Because in all fairness to Brody, because everyone wants to sit here and just judge Cano. Well, calm down a second, because I can tell you right now, if the Mets had made the playoffs last year because Edwin Diaz was as advertised, right? Because if Edward Diaz pitched last year like he pitched the year before when they traded for him, the Mets would have made the playoffs last year. They wouldn't have blown 27 saves. If the Mets made the playoffs last year and Edwin Diaz was a lights-out closer like he was supposed to be, nobody would be complaining about the Cano deal. So let's factor that in first. Also, let's factor in another thing. Everyone wants to say, "Oh, Brody can't do a great job." First of all, Brody's done a good job as the GM. In his first year as the GM, the Mets win total improved by almost 15 games. So I don't know where you're upset. I mean, he went in the right direction. Are you mad at Brody because they didn't win the World Series? Well, slow down. That's not how it works. You don't just come in and just win the World Series. Also, Brody's been handcuffed by money. So how do you know what he can do until you give him an open checkbook? Brody probably didn't want to go out and get, these pitchers on 1 year, $6 million deals. You don't think Brody wanted to go out and spend money on some of the big time free agents? You don't think Brody would have loved to be in on Garrett Cole? But what's the point of him calling Garrett Cole when the team says, "Oh, you have $25 million to fill the roster"?
Well, what this reminds me of a lot, Jim. when Steinbrenner bought the Yankees from CBS. Right, he came in here. He basically was his own GM. He went out and got the free agents he wanted, but he did build a scouting department. He did rebuild the minor league system, and he did have an unbelievable scouting department. Big Yankee fan, a lot of money. Went in there, wasn't scared to spend to go get Catfish Hunter, all these other big free agents at the time to make the Yankees almost an instant, World Series contender. So it reminds me with Cohen and Steinbrenner seems very similar to me at this point.
Yeah, and also understand this too. I don't want to see him come in like the coach, the new manager, Rojas. I want Rojas to get a chance. I want him to have a few years. I don't want Cohen to come in and just get rid of Rojas. I mean, I want to see what the kid can do. I don't mind, if whatever happens, happens. I mean, it's out of our control. I just want to be able to afford players. You know what? If Cohen comes in and let's say Real Muto and Betts both make it to the free agent market, they don't get re-signed, and he's in play for them, then I don't really care who the GM is, as long as we're in play for players. You know what I mean? Because the Mets have a needed catcher. Because this is Ramos's last year, and Ramos is not even in the same class as Real Muto. So, I would love to see them go in and, spend on players. And Michael mentions about he shouldn't have took Cano, but that's the thing, Michael. There's no Diaz without Cano. That's the whole point. They weren't trading the number one closer in the league the year before unless you took something on that they wanted to get rid of. Right. And they wanted to get rid of Cano's contract. No Cano, there's no Diaz.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
That's how they skim money, right, Matt? Yeah. I mean, that's how the Seattle was able to dump some money. There you go. You could have them, but you're taking $30 million a year in Robinson Cano for the next 5 years. I mean, the price of the business. Speaking of Robinson Cano, I don't know. There's a lot of speculation on what's going on with him. He's yet to be to camp yet. But the Mets are not releasing what's going on with him, so we don't know if it's coronavirus. Well, no, I mean, that's what teams are supposed to do right now. They're not allowed to release what's going on. So
he's going out for an extension, Jim. That's what he's doing right now.
I think he's going to be. You don't hold your breath. I mean, he's got 4 more years at 30 million, 28, 30, whatever it is, Let's see. Alex says, let's see. Quick question as a fan. I'm wondering, do you give the Wilpons at least a little credit for putting the best food in? Well, I got to be honest with you, Alex. I mean, I do like the food at Citi Field. I mean, it's very good, but I also like the field at the new Yankee place too. I mean, I've never really gone to a baseball game just me personally and done it because of what food they sell. I've usually done it to check out the park or see a game. Like I made a trip once up to see the Pittsburgh Pirates play, who are not a great team, and they weren't playing the Mets. But if you've ever been to that park in Pittsburgh, the thing is beautiful. It's probably the best looking park I've ever been to. They really do a great job out there in Pittsburgh with over the water and the bridge. It's beautiful. So I don't go to ball games based on the food because, to be honest with you, anytime I go somewhere and I have to get a beer, a couple hot dogs, and look at my wallet and notice that cost me $50, that just depresses me regardless. So I never look at it and say that was an amazing hot dog after I spent like $14 on it. Yeah, what a hot dog worth every $14. No, it's usually
no thanks.
Depressing. So that's why I pretty much was. So anyway, we'll probably be reporting on this on a weekly basis, at least a little bit, as more and more information comes in. But let's just close this part of the show on this, what we know. Cohen's in for $2 billion, and then an extra $2 billion if they want to sell SNY. The A-Rod group is still in. They haven't been told to take their stuff and go home at 1.7, and the group involved with the Devils is in at 1.7. So we know 3 groups, if there's a round 2 of bidding, are in the mix so far. Could be another 2, but they didn't mention them, so I'm going to say they're probably not. What we're going to find out in the next few days is if there will be a round 2 of bidding, because with the Cohens and the Wilpons talking exclusively now, if the Cohens feel comfortable with if the Wilpons feel comfortable with Cohen, they won't even go into a round 2. So, and I did read that the Wilpons are going to reach out to the owners this week and find out, will he get approved? Will there be a problem? And listen, Cohen, grease their pockets. It's a little bit of money. It's a little bit more money. You can do it. You got it. So on that note, so I want to talk about, have you guys had a chance to look at the traveling stuff? Like I know, the traveling and the Mets and everything they're talking about and how they're going to travel this year, because let's see, the whole key to the baseball season right now for everybody, the whole key to the baseball right now is the how they're going to travel and stay safe. You know what I mean? That's the whole key. So what do you think it's going to be like with these guys traveling and not being able to leave their hotel room and all this other stuff? You know what I mean? Have you had a chance to look at, like, did you see in Toronto that they said if the ball players are seen out, they could be fined up to $750,000?
Yeah. Wow. They could be. They could be fined up to that. I'd like to see them try to do that.
I've looked at some detail. I don't know how they're going to do it, man. I don't know if it's going to be plane, train, automobile. I mean, how do you transport people, groups of people across the country in a safe manner, whether it be having to go through airports? Now, granted, they all have their private entrances and access and stuff like that, whatever. And I would guess, unless they're going to redo the divisions and realign everyone locally to play each other for a shortened season, it's going to just be normal travel plans. They're going to have to stay in their hotel rooms. It's going to be like the Orlando bubble everywhere for baseball players. They're going to be in their own little bubble every time.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Listen, I don't know. This is why they schedule games in the close proximity of each other. They're not going out across country, so they really don't have to use the airport, and unless it's a last resort. They'll probably use buses, which a lot of teams do. They could control that a little bit more. There's not as many people there. They could privately rent these things and make sure it's clean and everything. And of course, at the hotels, like you said, Matt, I mean, most times a lot of players stay in hotel rooms anyway when they go and they visit different stadiums. Maybe the younger guys go out and they party a little bit, but for the most part, it's pretty much as usual there. They're just going to have to make sure that any hotel that they go to, that they're all over sanitizing it and taking care of it and stuff like that. So I would think it's going to be busing. It's like I said, you can rent it as a charter for just a team. You don't have to worry about anybody getting on a train or on a plane and being susceptible to anybody in airports and stuff like that. So I would imagine it would be busing in a close proximity, and the hotels would be pretty much controlled wherever they go.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only places you're going to see them kind of, fly or when they got to go down somewhere. Like if they go to Miami or Atlanta, there obviously that'd be a long bus ride, but they're going to take a plane. But for the most part, they're going to have to stay. But a lot of people were like shocked yesterday at what Toronto had said, because I mean they're taking it to the extreme. They even said that if a player goes out somewhere he's not supposed to be and he brings back the virus, they could be jailed.
Well, yeah, you have to follow local ordinance. All the teams said the same thing, that we'll do this in accordance with local ordinance. So it's important. Like if that's what they're doing, that's how Canada is, lowering their situation, making it better over there as far as the virus situation is concerned, is by their control measures. So if it has to be extreme, it has to be extreme. But I don't see a team like Toronto staying in Canada. I think they're going to just be playing here. I think they're going to play their home games here stateside or vice versa. Maybe everybody goes to Canada. Who knows? That's what the NFL is talking about. We can talk about that tomorrow on the football show. But, they're not going to be crossing the border back and forth like that. There's no way. The logistics behind that would be insane,
Yeah, I would imagine.
We're proud to be here today for the Blue Jays and the Yankees. And by the way, the Blue Jays will be without Vladimir Guerrero Jr. tonight, as he has been jailed for 4 days.
I would imagine. There's plenty of minor league ballparks that are official in this area, and I could see Toronto, the Blue Jays, coming down to one of the minor league ballparks, that's official, where they could, you don't have to worry about going across the border all the time. I would think that would make sense to everybody. So. I mean, you can't have teams going across, because that border is tough. Anybody that's going between Canada and the United States right now is having a hard problem. That would be the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, Robert says if he feels like he's going to be locked up in prison, he'd opt out. Robert, quit lying, Robert. We talked about this yesterday. Don't make stuff up on the air. Someone offered you $5 million to go sit in a jail cell for 75 days. You've been there tomorrow.
Yeah.
chilling. Come on, give me $5 million. I'll be
No
locked
doubt.
for 75 days. I'll actually go to an actual prison for 75 days. I'll drop the soap and still take the $5 million.
Oh man, no,
That is
Jim,
just
no,
crazy.
Jim.
$5 million is $5 million. I mean, let's just
Ridiculous.
legit.
Jeez. God, where's your morals?
Talking about 75 days for $5 million. How can you beat that? I mean,
Nope, can't beat that. That's a lot of airtime, Jim.
that's
You don't have to.
that's called retire time. That's called you see Jim on his boat when he goes on the air. That's what that is.
We ain't gonna be talking about soap. We got no sponsor for soap to begin with, so let's leave that out of it.
We need a soap sponsor.
Yes, sir. Well, maybe you just got us one, Jim. You know.
Did I? So you hit it on the head. The travel shouldn't be too bad. It's just about keeping these guys from interacting with people. That's got to be the toughest part is like, what are these guys are they going to go be around their families? Are they not going to be around their families? Like, what's their plan? You know, like you saw yesterday, Buster Posey has opted out. And that you got to take that thing into account because Buster Posey's on the backside of his career. He opted out. The White Sox top pitching prospect, Michael Kopech, opted out. And that's a big deal because he was supposed to make his MLB debut this year. So he opted out. So it is what it is, you know. I mean, people are going to opt out, you know.
Yeah, it's just a crazy season, right? I mean, it's just 60 games. We got to get going right now. We got to get ready to play in a very fast time. You've got to get in shape. Plus, you got a virus. Plus, we don't know how you're going to travel. Plus, we don't know if you're going to be with your families. I mean, it's a lot of confusing stuff out there for the players right now.
I mentioned this to someone yesterday. They released, I guess they got the first round of testing results back from all the sports except for football, hockey, basketball, baseball. And you're talking about 4,000 athletes we're talking about here. Out of 4,000 athletes, only 3.7% tested positive for coronavirus. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's a very small number.
No one can be testing for this. It's not a matter of it's not that bad or it's only a couple of these guys. It only takes a couple. You know, that's how we got to where we are now with all these confirmed cases and all that stuff like that. Man, listen, I'm over all this.
But wouldn't you agree, though, that when you see people say, oh, someone tested positive, they shouldn't play, don't you got to ask yourself, you're going to tell me that somewhere in this world there was a fan out there who thought that realistically they were going to play and nobody was going to test positive? Is that reality?
No, everybody knew that they were going to be positive. They were talking about this leading up to the results coming in after all the testing was being done. They're like, all right, we're going to see who can go. We're going to see who can't go. All right. And so we knew there would be positive cases. That's a given. But fact of the matter is you can't risk the health of other people just because you want to see a couple of guys play ball. If they're good, and the more we see it scaled back, we're getting closer and closer and closer to not having any sort of sports like that right now. Just like NCAA football, conference-only games, they're taking steps.
Well, you know, another thing you got to factor in too.
That's a given.
Is that another thing you got to factor in is that could you imagine if they had come back and said, all right, we tested all the players and none of the players came back positive. The conspiracy theorists would have came out of the woodwork claiming that the rich people are getting some miracle drug and everybody's healthy while all of us are dying. It would have been worse. It would have been a disaster. People are like, what do the baseball players get? We don't get, you know.
You know, again, guys, always come back to this point. There's more tests available. We know that a lot of people are positive for this virus. We've just let everybody out of the houses that have been sitting there and not doing anything. So they're going to get the virus and they're going to test positive. I mean, this is not just baseball. This is everybody. One of my guys at work has tested positive, and he's going back for a retest right now. But I'm still out there working. The big thing I want to find out in the end is how many people actually get sick from this thing. I mean, gravely sick. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of different flus. There's a lot of different diseases out there that we all get. I want to see what actually happens to a lot of these healthy guys, whether they get so sick, almost deathly sick. Not that I wish it on anybody, but I want to see how sick they get and what the results of that is. How are they going to manage it? Are they going to take that one player and put them aside and keep playing? Are they going to take them 3 players aside where they can and keep playing? Those are the things I want to find out and what I want to see with my own eyes. Before we start talking about closing down a season.
Right, because you're right, and you mentioned it, and you're right. We've all known somebody, at least I have. I can't speak for you guys, but I myself have known somebody who's tested positive for the coronavirus and went 2 weeks without showing a single hint of being sick. And then they retested 2 weeks later and it was gone. And if they didn't get tested in the first place, didn't even look like they had a runny nose. So it hits everybody different. I'm not going to take away from the people that it hits hard, because like Freddie Freeman, said that he got it and it was tough for a few days. Like he was really, and I know somebody else who got it and they had such severe headaches and everything that for 22 hours a day for 3 days they slept. But it hits everybody different. It's not automatically that you get it and you're just in bed. That's not different for everybody. So it's just stopping the spread, really.
It's going to be. Hey, listen, this is something we're all learning on the fly. We're all going to learn on the fly as far as travel is concerned. We're all going to learn on the fly as far as how to handle this publicly, how to go forward normally. I won't quite yet sit here and accept that this is our quote unquote new normal. You see these commercials and you hear it all. Oh, our new normal, and this. No, we cannot allow ourselves to be pushed into this being the new normal. I believe that the people will be better than that and come together and take care of this the way it needs to be taken care of. But until then, until leadership does what it needs to do, and until everybody realizes that this is serious, we don't know what the long-term health ramifications are of this. They're saying now that it could affect your lungs long-term, your kidneys, your liver, things like that. Now, if you're an athlete and now your lungs don't function at 100%, they function at 94%, or 96% or 98% or even less than that even. Now your career has changed. Now your ability has changed. Now your availability has changed. So we don't know, like, what if Freddie Freeman can't run the bases without getting super winded one time?
That might be how it is this year. That might be how it is.
What if these football players, what if some of these defensive linemen, offensive linemen that have gotten this, wide receivers, what if these guys can't go more than 2-3 plays? What if they go to Denver and they can't breathe because of the altitude, because now they have these long-term effects from the virus? There's a lot of different things to consider,
Don't make it look so grave. Damn, you just made me.
It's reality. No, it's the reality of it.
They shouldn't play in Denver. That was such a good point.
It's the reality of it. It's the reality of the situation. I know people personally. I have some good friends of mine that are dealing with this right now, and I have friends that daughter has it. It's not good. It's a real thing. It's out there. My significant other is not even here at the house with me because I'm out working every day. She's staying at her mom's right now because she's pregnant. So it affects everybody. Everybody is being affected, and we all need to adjust and accommodate, and we'll work it out. We'll get there.
Yeah. I definitely think we're learning on the fly. But again, guys, like I said before, we've had, and this is maybe not comparable to it, but we've had people that have gotten the flu and died from pneumonia, because of the effects of the flu. I mean, I really don't know what to say as far as what the next step is. I just, like I said, I'm very interested to see the people that test positive. What are the normal effects of this? How is it going to affect them where they have to lay in bed or go to the hospital? Now we're talking some really grave cases where it really affects them that bad. But if it's just like they're going to have to stay in bed for a few days, take a week off, that shouldn't prevent the whole sport from continuing. We'll see.
Right. Well, that's what makes this virus so crappy. When people try to compare it to everything else, this is what I think makes it different than everything else, is that you just hit it on the head. It affects everyone so differently that you just have no idea. You know what I mean? So, but my thing is that I'm tired of having the conversations with people on Facebook. I'm tired of seeing people play. Oh, someone's opting out. They shouldn't play. Give it a rest already. Either play or don't play, because I don't want to hear about it for 6 months. Either commit and play or don't. They're playing, people. Every time someone opts out doesn't mean they need to not play. I mean, 1,700 baseball players, if 12 opt out, you think they shouldn't play? Go sit home. Be the 12. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from the sickness. Everybody has the right, whether they feel comfortable to play or not play.
Absolutely right.
But that does not mean we should shut down the sport because a few people don't want to play. That's their prerogative. And this, end of story on that. I say every day on Facebook, it's like you see the same stuff, like, oh, they should shut it down. Then why are you on the baseball group? Go talk badminton. If you
We'll
don't
never get back to normal if we just continue to we have to do this by trial. There has to be trial and error. I'm not saying sacrifice anybody. I'm not saying
no
send people
sacrifice lands, but you got to see what's out there.
We need to figure out what we can do. We need to move forward, and we need to see, okay, this is okay. Now we can now this is okay. We can do this. We can check temperatures this way. We can seat people this way. We can, I'm just like Justin Thomas. I'm done talking about this.
Playing. I see soccer players playing, scoring goals. That's all I needed to see. It's serious to get sports back when I'm watching soccer all day. I like soccer, but not all day. I got Justin telling me about every soccer game on Facebook coming on TV. Hey, Jim, Target versus Walmart tonight, 8:00 in the park.
United, baby.
I mean, there's all types of soccer going on. So that brings me to, now I don't understand why they did this. I'm just starting to get used to this year's schedule, and MLB releases next year's schedule. Like, are you trying to get my head spinning? Not to mention the fact, do you honestly want me to believe that we're going to, right, like today, do you want me to believe on July 11th that we're going to play 162 games next year? So anyway, before I even had a chance to see who the Mets were playing in September this year or the Yankees, they released next year's schedule. So a couple of interesting notes on next year's schedule. Maybe this is something in the future they're just going to do all the time now. But you have the Mets are going to play the Yankees 4th of July weekend. It's a big deal, 4th of July. And then the Yankees are coming to play the Mets at the time period in 9/11. So I'm wondering if that's something they're trying to do going forward permanently. Those are two major weekends, 4th of July and 9/11, to have the Mets playing each other. I mean, other than that, have you really dug that deep into next year's schedule?
No,
I didn't look at it.
Look at it. I'm more worried about this year, man. I really am.
Can we get through? Can we be having a conversation on August 10th where you guys actually tell me the teams have played 12 games before I focus on next year's schedule? I mean,
and we don't even know what's going to happen with the agreement next year, the bargaining agreement. I mean, there might be a strike or a lockout. Who the heck knows? I mean, maybe that's why they're saying something. I don't know. But I mean, right now I'm more worried about what's going to happen, 2 months from now than I am worried about what's going to happen next year.
The cool thing about next year's schedule is the Yankees got all the holidays at home. They've got Easter Sunday, Mother's Day, Memorial Day, Father's Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day, all at home at Yankee Stadium. Yeah. And they start and finish the season at Yankee Stadium next year.
Freaking Yankees always getting.
But that's all I can tell you about.
Always getting favoritism. The commissioner should be fired. The 13 or whoever makes the schedule, 13 days is what I'm worried about, because we have 13 days from opening day, 13 days from seeing Garrett Cole and Max Scherzer on the mound. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Listen, it's great. And we'll spend so many countless hours next year talking about the next year's schedule and how exciting it's going to be to have the Mets play the Yankees on the 4th of July and then on 9/11. So much so that Matt will send me private messages like he does sometimes, like, Jim, let's get another topic. So no, it's just okay. We will talk plenty about next year's schedule, but like Major League Baseball, can we be excited that we're 13 days away from this schedule before we worry about the Mets closing the season next year in Atlanta, which I'll complain about next year a bunch too, but that'll
be a division race.
It could be.
That'll be a division-winning game, right? That's going to be whoever wins his last game this season. Watch, we'll see. We'll get there.
Half of America doesn't think we can make it through a 60-game season, and we got MLB saying, "Here's 162."
Right?
Not a chance, baby.
So I hope next year that we're all watching it and that people are in the stand. Even if it's 10,000 people, I don't care. 10,000, just put someone in there. Oh, you don't want me to be the commissioner of baseball? Oh boy. Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm getting ready to send my cardboard cutout of myself to Yankee Stadium right now. I'll pay that $20 for the home game. You'll see me in my hat. I'll be right behind the dugout. I'll be standing. I'll have a smile on too because, of course, the Yankees will be winning. So I have a big smile on my hat, and I'll be right behind catcher. You just look for me, my cardboard cutout.
Will the hat have the proper Big Guy Sports logo on it?
It might. We'll see what happens. Don't rush me now, Jim. This is going to take some.
What is Justin WTFing about? My vote for commissioner? Well, you don't think I make a good commissioner? I think I make a hell of a commissioner.
Justin is not having it today. Justin Thomas is.
I don't know if he's talking about me being commissioner or something else. It's going to have to elaborate.
Well, maybe you don't want him to elaborate.
I'll put a smile on Justin's face. You're only 19 days away from dropping the puck. There you go, Justin. Smile. See, he's happy now. He's sitting somewhere in a closet, happy.
There you are.
So we're getting close. But I don't remember them ever releasing the next year's schedule this early. So I was just a little shocked by that. Like everybody,
let's give them something to look forward to.
It's like a little tease,
something.
So that's the only thing I did was look at the highlights, of the Mets and the Yankees and the 4th of July and the 9/11, and so who the Mets were closing the series out, and like Matt said, who the Yankees are closing the season out with. So we have that. So, on that thing, let's see what some of the fans say before we move over to Yankees news and notes. Let's scroll down. Chuck says, stop, drop, and roll, basically. Put on a mask, wash your hands, and stop the politics. Let's see. He says, my kids are playing sports. Stop whining. I'm going to add in Felicia. Can I add Felicia in there for him? Yeah. All right. So Justin says he refuses to talk about the virus anymore. He says, just get it done. Chuck says, I'm planning my holidays. Well, not really. I don't celebrate any holidays except Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Halloween. Robert says next year's schedule he's going to travel down to see the Mets play in Miami. I've got to vote for commissioner.
There you go.
More vote than I had yesterday. And Alexander says the only team that did the seating research that I've seen was the Ravens, and they would have less than 14K fans. That'd be a big advantage if you think about it. If a team, I want to get into football teams. If you imagine if a baseball team did this year, find a way to put even 10,000 fans in the stands when other teams can't put fans in the stands because it's a state-by-state thing. Could you imagine the advantage? Imagine going somewhere and they have fans. That's an advantage. No,
I don't think the commissioner would allow that, because people would be crying about it. Other teams would be complaining about it. So they'll pretty much. I think they put the kibosh on something like that, where one stadium can have fans where the rest of them can't. So.
True. So let's get over to our Yankee news and notes section and let this roll a little bit. Break this down a little bit. So couple reports. So we'll start off with Tanaka. So Tanaka, got hit in the head by Mr. Stanton. The only thing he's hit in like 6 months is, Tanaka. He hits Tanaka, knocks him out. He takes him to the hospital. He's got a concussion. The Yankees he's not begun throwing yet, but according to the Yankees, he is healthy and looking better and should be on the mound soon. So we'll start with you, Mac. How important is it that Tanaka's ready to go right out the gate as opposed to missing a few weeks?
Well, of course it's important. I guess if you look at the depth chart, he's probably number 2 in a rotation. I wish our rotation was a lot better than what it is, but he's probably number 2 behind Cole. So if he's not in there, that's going to be a big void. I don't think he'll have repercussions down the line for this, but he's a good pitcher in our rotation. And we'll see what happens as far as how he works out in that slot this year for us.
Matt, Tanaka should be ready, right? I mean, how long does it take to get back over a concussion?
No, look, he'll be ready. Every concussion is unique. All right, every concussion is unique. Some people, for instance, on Monday, he was already on an exercise bike. He did 10, 15 minutes on an exercise bike on Monday. Some people that soon after a concussion can't last 30 seconds, let alone 15 minutes without feeling sick, queasy, sensitivity to light, things like that. He went and saw a neck and spine specialist. He's been looked at, so everything's secure, stable, steady. He's all right. So now all he's doing is recovering from the concussion, a mild concussion, it seems like. He'll be ready for when his first start is scheduled for. He'll be ready. I'm not sure the exact. I would imagine the second game. Um, I don't see any delay here. Just a
The only
concussion,
problem you
first
can see with
concussion.
Tanaka, right, is a limit, right?
112 mile per hour line drive off the bat of Giancarlo Stanton hit him right in the dome. You know, when he was laying there motionless on that field, buddy, that's a scary moment. A lot of people were concerned, but luckily it's just concussion. He's bouncing back. He's looking healthy. Some guys can be back from a concussion week and a half. You know,
Remember 10 years ago when Major League Baseball was considering using aluminum bats? He'd have been dead.
oh my gosh, could you imagine those guys nailing that ball with aluminum bats?
You'd be dead.
The ball would fly 40 miles in the other direction. That would be incredible.
Well, you got to imagine the only thing that's going to maybe hurt the Yankees with this Tanaka concussion will be that his arm's not going to be spread out right away. So you're probably going to see, like, you might see him in the second game of the season be limited to 60 pitches, 65 pitches, which means you're putting your bullpen in there right off the bat, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tanaka's is an experienced pitcher. The only thing that I would be worried about is mentally. You know, is that going to shake him up? And that has happened to some pitchers and some players getting hit with baseballs or getting hit by line drives off bats. You can't measure that. You know, you can't say, oh, he's fine that way. So, I mean, that would be the only concern I would have. But this man's been pitching forever. I would imagine he's been hit with the ball a few times.
Taken one of those. Yeah, he took one of those a couple of years back. He took one of those.
Yeah, so I wouldn't worry about that.
So you're basically saying he's an experienced, taking one to the noggin kind of guy.
Yeah, of course. You would think so.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, other Yankee news. I don't know if you saw this video yesterday. I'm pretty certain at least that Mac did not see it because he's been working his butt off. Andahar. The Yankees keep trying to find out if Andahar can field for some reason. I got Matt holding his hand over his head instead of just saying you're the DH. Did you see the video of Andahar in right field?
Well, you know,
just go ahead, Mac.
Just you know. Now, when I saw you bring this up, and for everybody at home to know, Jim is a huge Mets fan. And we're not talking about Andahar hitting that shot off cold.
I brought that up the other day.
Wait. We're not talking about it on baseball this weekend. We're talking about him missing a fly ball. And I don't know.
I'm asking you why they keep putting Andahar in the field.
Well, let me finish, Jim. Right. I mean, listen. And this is practice, Jim. This is not during a game. They're trying to find a spot for this young, talented young guy. And people drop balls all the time in Major League, sometimes even in games, big guy. In fact, I was so hurt by you wanting to talk about this. I wasn't upset. I was kind of disappointed. So I went and I looked up in games of outfielders that have dropped fly balls in key positions and key parts of the game. And you know the first person that came up, Mr. Big Guy? You know who that was? That was your Mets player. A Mets player came up first, and his name was Davis. And Davis,
J.D. Davis, he can't field either.
Yeah, but this is in the game now. So you guys are playing the Phillies. They're winning 1-0, and Davis goes back, easy pop up, and he misses the ball, and the Phillies score 4 runs in that 1 inning. Okay. So, I mean, it happens. I'd rather it happen in practice than in the game. And I don't know if it's animosity here. You want to talk about this? Or I have no.
Let me make sure I understand this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to talk about why they're even bothering putting Andahar in the field.
Right.
Now, and in my production notes, your counter argument is to go find a J.D. Davis drop fly ball.
First one that popped up. The first thing that popped up in Google was J.D. Davis dropping a ball during the game and losing a game that was very important, 2019 towards your playoff run, and him dropping the ball in the outfield, easy pop-up, and 4 runs the Phillies scored that inning. So I don't know if it's because you want to just pick on the Yankees and Andahar. I really believe that side of you is coming out right now.
No, I'm trying to understand. This has nothing to do with picking on the Yankees. I am trying to understand why Andahar is being tested out in the outfield to begin with. J.D. Davis has to play the field. So him dropping fly balls because he can't field either. I'll be the first one to say that. But we're in the National League. And up until this year, we didn't have a DH. So he has no choice but to either go out there and drop fly balls or sit on the bench. And this year, they still think he's a better option than Cespedes in the outfield.
But you would think, Jim, that Andahar is a very talented. He got hurt last year. Very talented young player. I mean, they want to find a spot for this guy.
Like
and we got plenty of DHs. We got all kinds of DHs we can use. So they're trying to find a spot, whether it be at third base or the corners of the outfield, where this man may be able to come in and contribute. I wouldn't keep him in the end of the game when we're ahead. I wouldn't do that. But we're going to try and find a spot for this, right, man? I think so.
But don't you guys find it? Don't you find it that a guy who came up through the minor leagues playing third base, isn't it just better to let him butcher it at third base than try to teach him the outfield?
No, you can't have him on a hot corner. Like it's just
that's what he knows.
No, but he's not good at it. That's why they have him in right field right now. He was terrible. He was terrible in the field. But do you remember when he had 83 runs, 170 hits, when he had 92 RBIs, 25 doubles?
And then
in 2018, we were talking about he could be the rookie of the year offensively.
He would have been if it wasn't for Ohtani, of course.
If it wasn't for Ohtani, yeah, and he very well could have been.
Mm-hmm.
He's still. He flashes in the field at third base. Like, he has flashes, where you're like, okay, so he can do that. He can backhand that thing and turn around and get it over to first. All right, cool. But then you see, like, a standard ground ball, man, and it'll just flutter up his glove and hit him in the chin or knock his hat off his head or – like, it looks like, oh, my gosh, what's the name of that movie where they're all looking, fly ball hit him in the face through his glove. And it's just – the one yesterday, it looked like someone who never played baseball was out there trying to field a fly ball yesterday in the field. Mac, you see that? I love this team. I love the Yankees. I grew up loving the Yankees. My first picture I have on camera is me wearing a Yankee shirt. But they need this guy, DH, left field. I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna do because he can't field. He can't catch the ball. I don't know if it's a vision issue. I don't know if he needs to get his eyes checked. I don't know if his depth perception is off. I don't know what's the matter. I don't know. Vertigo.
Mad at me, but the Yankees themselves are saying that he's going to lose a lot of playing time if he can't field because they already have a DH. So
they have plenty of DHs. Listen, I still think this is practice, guys. This is what you do. You run the drills. You do things like this to improve yourself. As far as depth perception, he wouldn't be able to hit the ball like he hits the ball if he had a problem with depth perception there, man. I mean, listen, he's a work in progress. They're going to have to find a place for this guy because of his offense. And wherever this place is that they find for him, whether it's platooning or whatever, they're going to have to find a place for this young guy and keep working with him. I mean, there's a lot of players out there that have different problems, whether it's offense or defense, and teams find a way to work with them.
What about third base coach? That's a spot for him.
If he can hit, yeah, sure.
I'm just saying you got to watch depth perception's one way to look at it. I mean, he's
Did you see Gio Urshela is going to knock him out at that third base spot?
Field.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's the thing. So if you put Andujar at third base, then where are you going to put Urshela? You're going to waste Urshela's talent on the hot corner out in the outfield? No, we don't.
Well, here's the only thing he's got going for him if you're Andujar is that, as I've said before, Urshela was terrible the first 7 years of his career, had a lucky year last year. He's going to be terrible this year. I'm telling you. No, I like Andujar better, and then he'll get his job back. When you're a month into the season and Urshela's back to hitting his normal 220, Andujar will be back to being the everyday third baseman.
Andujar will end up playing second base at some point in his career, and that's going to
not over DJ LeMahieu. I think Andujar is destined to be a career DH, but I don't think it's going to be with the Yankees. I think
he's got some good trade value.
Yeah, I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to get traded to another American League team who's got room for a full-time DH, maybe in the offseason. And because he's the type of guy that if he goes out and he puts numbers like he did up his rookie year, that could get you a frontline starter. So you can trade him to someone, let him DH and hit home runs all day long. Yeah, it helps his trade value if the National League, when they get to the offseason this year, if they decide next year to use a DH also, because everybody knows in 2022, when the CBA comes up, they're probably going to go full-time DH. So if they could get but they haven't decided for the last year of the CBA next year. If they go DH, that ups his trade value because now you have a whole bunch of other teams that need a DH. So,
you might learn how to field.
Yeah, I mean, well, some things can't be taught.
Some people just have blocks when it comes to certain things. It's true. It's very true.
Couldn't teach Eli how to run. You can't teach Andujar how to field. So Gary Sanchez, talk about whether Gary Sanchez is going to be ready for opening day. And I hate to say this, I didn't even realize Gary Sanchez was hurt. So I don't know why there's a discussion about Gary Sanchez being ready for opening day. So the Yankees are confident he'll be ready for opening day. Well, thanks for the update. Did he have a toenail problem or something? I mean, did I miss something here, Mac? What's going on with?
Yeah, he was hurt last year. He played hurt almost all year last year.
They're always hurt.
Huh?
They're always hurt catchers.
Yeah, but I'm just saying he was hurt pretty good. He had to take some games off here and there. I mean, he was really hurt last year. That's why, even though his production was okay, it wasn't as good as it was the year before. I mean, so he's working with this catching coach that they just got in the offseason, Tanner Swanson, and he's trying to work on his defense again. And of course, his offense is good, but he's still working on that. As his defense did, even being hurt last year, his defense did improve a little bit. I mean, if he can become a good defensive catcher, this guy is going to be unbelievable for the Yankees for the next few years.
You happy with Sanchez at catcher, Matt?
Yeah, man. He had a little rough go at it in 2018 with the pass balls. He led the league in pass balls in 2018 in 653 innings. Normally in a single season, a catcher will run about 1,000 innings. He averaged a pass ball every 86 innings a couple years ago, which is just horrible. But last year, he stepped it up defensively in a big way. We saw a lot of progress from him last year defensively, and I think he'll continue to get better. He was down in the Dominican Republic this entire winter or in the offseason down there, and he was working on his, quote, offense and defense. So, we know he can swing the stick. We know he can get it out of the park when we need him to do it. Yeah, he's working on getting his weight down. He said he got a little heavy there, which he did. Everybody kind of saw it. He gained a lot of weight, so he's working on his weight. He's getting that swing back right, and I think Gary Sanchez is going to be a key player, and we got a great catcher set there.
It's gonna be very interesting to see in the off season what happens if you have, let's just say everything falls into place. Cohen gets the Mets. The Sanchez is somewhere like in the middle, like he hits okay, but still has defensive issues. And reports came out yesterday, a lot of reports that the Phillies are going to let Real Muto test the market. So if Real Muto hits the market and you have the Mets don't have this is Ramos's last year, and they have an owner who will spend. Maybe the Yankees are not sold on Sanchez. You could see a huge bidding war for Real Muto's services, not just among New York teams, but other teams.
This guy Swanson, coming from the Twins, worked with Mitch Garver. Mm-hmm. We saw what he did down there, so I think I think they're gonna give him at least this season, at least to see.
I don't know why the Yankees would want to go after Real Muto. I mean, you have Sanchez. Sanchez can hit. Really, he launches it. He's a bomber. I mean, I just continue to let the kid grow. I don't know why every problem has to be solved with money, like throwing money at the problem.
This reminds me a lot of when Posada was coming up and the Yankees held on to him instead of going after Pudge early. It was talk there was a trade back then that was lined up to do that. Listen, Posada is no Pudge, but I'm telling you right now, that dude was one of the key members of the Yankees in that World Series run. Great hitting for average, nice power, very good defensively. I mean, he was a
man.
Yeah, he was a major player in us going to the World Series. He doesn't get talked about enough, with Mariano and with Jeter and with, and with the other guys there. But he was a major player in getting us there. So Sanchez is one of my favorite Yankees right now. I would love for them to hold on to him and just let him grow, man. He's a kid still.
They should. I get aggravated if you have someone good and Sanchez is good and you just try to throw money at the problem. Like, let's just go out and buy someone else. Well, he's young, he's good. Give him a shot, see what happens. That's my motto. So
I think he'll be worth the wait. A lot of these guys, these catchers, man, they don't come along till a little bit later in their career. Like you see a lot of great catchers, they become better defensively closer to the end of their career. Look at a guy like Jason Varitek. Look, Jason Varitek was an amazing catcher, brother, for the Boston Red Sox. You know, he started off hot, great hitter all the time. I mean, he was always a very good catcher, but he wasn't a great catcher until later in his career. You know,
Yeah.
and I think once Sanchez gets comfortable, once we get a steady rotation where we're not changing pitchers every single year, this matters. This matters for catchers. You know, when you get build up, we have Garrett Cole. When he gets comfortable with Cole, when Tanaka comes back, and he gets comfortable with these pitchers, and we have a normal starting rotation with these guys, I think he's going to be better and better every year. I say hold on to him. Don't go throwing money at JT Realmuto. Don't go throwing money around just to fill the spot with the best available player. Let these guys grow. They wanted to grow the farm. They've been doing a great job the last couple seasons, developing young talent, bringing guys up, and I think they should just stick with it.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the Yankee fans, you got to calm down. I see you guys on Facebook. Oh, Sanchez got to have a big year. We need to go get Maruma. Calm down. Calm down. Sanchez is never going to be Piazza. Accept that fact. He's not going to be the greatest hitting catcher of all time, but he's not bad either. I mean, if you have to make, I got to take a jab at him when I can. Don't take it personally. So anyway,
I told you, Matt. I told you.
Dude, what is wrong with him?
You would be surprised how many Yankee fans, believe this or not, how many Yankee fans are on Facebook already plotting to get Realmuto. They haven't
believe it. Oh, I know it. I see it.
They haven't even played a game yet, and they're already ready to run Sanchez out of town because the best catcher in the league is about to come on the market. Well,
shiny new toy.
You better also factor in that the best catcher in the league is going to come on the market, and he's going to break the bank for catchers. And you better be careful because he's not 24. He's going to be 28 next year. And when some team gives him like a 6-year deal for like $27 million a year, you better hope when he's 31 or 32 that his knees are still holding up and he doesn't start to break down. Let them
miles
that money. Let us do that.
Miles on the knees.
So you have Sanchez. I mean, I wouldn't if I was a Met. If Sanchez was a Met, and I'm going into next year, and I have other positions I could go spend money on, why would I spend the money on the one where I have the young guy who can hit the home run? If he was a Met, I would keep Sanchez instead of going after Realmuto, regardless of the fact that, yes, Realmuto is better. He's the best catcher in the league. But we're not talking about Sanchez being one of the worst catchers. He's probably top 5. So why would I trade the 4th best catcher for the 1st when there's 30 other catchers? Keep him and go fix something else. Go, if you're going to let Paxton and Tanaka walk, go buy a pitcher. Don't worry about catcher. I mean, what's the point of having good players out of position if you're like, oh, he's the 3rd best out of 30 catchers. I got to need the 1st. Slow down.
Unnecessary.
Sanchez play, and he's homegrown.
Those are the reasons people walk around for decades saying the Yankees buy championships, the Yankees buy championships. That's the kind of stuff that leads to people saying
– they used to do that. They used to just say, no good.
Because now we actually have an organic team. We have a mostly organic team now with Torres and Judge and these young guys, LeMahieu. Man, these guys are going to come in there and we're going to be all right. But they don't need to go throwing this money around. Save the money. Pay your stars that you have now. We still got to pay Judge. We're going to have to pay Torres. We're going to have to pay Andujar at some point if we keep him. We're paying Garrett Cole a dump truck load of money.
Not to mention the fact you got to decide in the offseason if you're going to pay DJ LeMahieu or if you're going to let him walk because DJ LeMahieu is going to get a ton of money.
Right, and we still need to fix our starting rotation. We still need to get that second, 3rd slot. I know we got Sereno coming back, and if I'm saying it right, but you know who I'm talking about coming back. And I don't know if Tanaka's the answer or not. I don't think Paxton's the answer. So I mean, good, decent pitchers that'll pitch some innings for you. But we definitely need a strong number 2 pitcher that's coming out and on the market, or find a young one. I don't care, but we still have to fix that starting rotation.
Sanchez is very serviceable. If you don't want him, call up Brody. We'll give you Ramos for him. You take Ramos, we'll take Sanchez.
Ramos,
we'll take the 10-year younger catcher and let him grow. I mean, because little patience. I mean, Jesus. Louise.
We need the Yankees organization to be patient, and Yankees fans need to be patient too, man. They did this with Bryce Harper. They did this when what's his name, Cole went on the market. My goodness, they just any new guy that's coming up that's hot, it's coming up to be a free agent. They just go crazy. Oh, Yankees are going to sign him. We want Bryce Harper.
Look at the holes for next year. First of all, you don't really have an everyday first baseman. Luke Voigt and Mike Ford and all those guys, they're kind of gap stop. They're not.
Yeah, those are good players, man.
But they're not everyday guys. So you need that. DJ LeMahieu is going to be a free agent. So if you don't sign him for a ton of money, which is what it's going to cost, you need a second baseman. All right, regardless, but you need a second baseman. You Gio Urshela or Andahar, whatever is going to be at third. So you got that side figured out. But you and your whole rotation, Severino's not back till halfway next year. Marquette, who knows what Herman is going to be after his suspension. So you have holes in the rotation. And let me tell you, you want to talk about putting $26 million a year towards Real Muto. It's going to cost you $26 million a year to keep LeMahieu.
I'd rather keep LeMahieu.
So let's not, forget about that. And then all the holes you got to fill in your starting rotation, since Cashman, for some reason, refuses to trade Frazier, who could get you a starter, but for some reason he likes his defense, which isn't much better than Andahar. So I don't understand that either. So, there's a lot of confusion going on. But Gary Sanchez has not even hit his prime years yet. I mean,
and what a offensive player he is, man. I mean, I don't know how you can deny how much potential. I mean, how much he's done already, and the potential this man has going forward. 28, 30 home runs, driving in runs, clutch hitter. Sometimes he hits when the game's on the line, and he's a young kid. So once his defense comes up to the level that it should be, I mean, he's going to be an outstanding catcher for years to come.
I mean, I see the appeal of Realmuto because as a Met fan, I hope they go after him. I hope we have Cohen in place and we can go sign him because the appeal is that Realmuto does everything well, while as Sanchez needs some work on his defense. And not a lot of time, not that very often does a catcher come along who does it all well. Like usually, look like for Piazza, I bring him up all the time. Piazza, he could hit, but he couldn't play defense. Right. So, or you look at a lot of catchers in the league who could play defense, but they can't hit over 230. So it's not very often that a catcher comes around and he's the total package. So I understand the draw, but I also understand you have other holes. And the draw is to win the World Series, not, as Matt said, become the team that everyone says again, oh, look, they're trying to buy all the players because they just spent $100 million on 3 players in the offseason to bring their payroll up to $280 million or whatever, it's going to be. So anyway, so speaking of, I don't really have any issues with Aaron Boone, but yesterday I was like, oh, Aaron. So Aaron's talking to the media and he's basically telling everybody, he's like, listen, we need everyone to understand patience this year. I understand people see us do bad things and they like to call up radio stations and say this guy's got to go and that guy's got to go. He's like, but we need everyone to be patient. Now I sat there for a minute and I thought like Terrence Williams, one of my favorite comedians, about making weird faces. And I was like, Aaron, you don't have time for patience this year.
Why do Yankees fans need to be patient? Have we not been patient enough in 2011?
What's that?
Have they not been patient enough the last couple of years? Watching them have
to get off to a slow start. And I'm thinking to myself, you only playing 60 games. You can't afford
time for patience. That's what pisses me off with this guy because he's a good manager. He figured out how to use his bullpen rotation, things like that. But you talking about Yankees fans need to be patient, my man? We've been patient. Since 2009, we've been patient. We've been patient through the last years of Joe Girardi. We've been patient the first couple years of Aaron Boone. We watch you have these great teams, and they just squander it away time and time again. Granted, the Astros have been good. The Red Sox are good. Okay, I get it. Don't talk about patience. Get out there and play some baseball like you're supposed to. You've got one of the most talented rosters in the Major League Baseball. You got 62 games. Just get after it. Patience.
What do you think, Mac?
Listen, I mean, honestly, what does I fail to see what a manager in baseball, besides maybe putting a lineup together or maybe, changing players during the game. And he's probably talking to the coaches about that anyway. Listen, Cashman has not provided the Yankees with a good starting rotation since the last World Series. They have put all their eggs in one basket, getting all these relief pitchers, the best relief pitching bullpen in the league. I mean, they're the greatest. But
second, but yeah.
but when it comes to the end of the season, and this is what this is like now, guys. This is like the end of the season. The relievers' arms get tired because they're used every inning. They're pitching every game, and we only let our starters go 4 or 5 innings. It's ridiculous. So this has been the Yankees' problem since the last World Series, and I don't know what's going to happen this year, whether the relievers are going to be – it's going to help us because they're not going to have to pitch so many games, or just we're going to be behind in some games because our staff is still not even close to one of the best in the league. And we're going to get behind, and it doesn't matter if the reliever, if we have the greatest relief staff or not, because it's the games are lost. So I don't know what's going to happen this year. As far as patience, Boone says, what does every manager? I mean, yeah, be patient. What do you mean be patient? I have no idea what he's talking about then. I think he's talking about our biggest players not getting hot right away. And he already has said in some videos that he's going to lean on the bench this year before he normally does during the season. So
he has no choice, right? 60 games in 67 days.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to utilize all his players. But if you're going to tell me, okay, we're going to take Aaron Judge out of the game if he can play, and we're going to take, Hicks out of the game and he can play because he's going a little cold, I mean, that doesn't make sense either. So I think that was the point of what he was trying to say.
No, I understand. He also wants to stop the fans because, Yankee fans do tend to do this. This is facts. Is you guys tend to, when you have a bad week, they call up the fan and want everybody fired. Everybody. Like, I've seen it all the time. Like, this guy's got to go. That guy's got to go. Stanton struck out 3 times yesterday. Get him on a plane. Get him out of here. Yankees fans over-dramatize when things go bad for a few days. And he's like, let's not do that this year. Let's calm down. He
needs to be quiet, and he needs to understand that where he's at. You're the manager of the New York Yankees, okay? This is not a joke. This is not something – this is not start off the season, get 6, 7, 8 games in a hole behind Boston or Baltimore or one of these teams, Tampa Bay even. These are legitimate teams this year. These teams are going to be on your neck the entire time. All right? There's no time to – let's get them moving. Let's stretch the hammies out. Let's get the arms going. Okay, yeah, fine. But don't sit here and expect Yankees fans to sit through these 60 games and watch you piss away the first 15 of them because you want to work your bench and make sure everybody's this and that, and you want to blah, 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 blah. No, play baseball. Let's get out there and go.
So what do you suggest? I mean, if you suggest then, okay, Aaron Judge has 2 bad games, we're going to sit him? I mean,
no.
This is what he's talking about. He says
he's making an excuse already for these guys.
We have stars, and they're saying, well, what happens if they go 0-4 in the first 3 games and we lose the 3 games? Are you going to quickly move in and out? Of course not. Listen, no. I think people are reading wrong into what Aaron Boone is saying here. He's saying, listen, when Boone isn't hitting good or LeMahieu is having problems, if he's having problems, we're not going to pull him out and throw some subs in right away. He's saying you got to be patient with the stars, and of course, he's going to lean on the bench when he has to.
We've been patient. We've been patient for a long time.
2009. It's patient.
That's true. Hey, listen, Matt, there's a lot of teams out there that haven't won a World Series past 2009.
So they're not the New York Yankees, okay? There's a standard that needs to be met.
Yeah, stop.
They're not meeting the standard.
Everyone else, Mac.
Listen. The Yankees have a competitive team. They still don't have a pitching rotation. They're always in the playoffs. I know we want to win every World Series we can, and we have for the most part over the history of baseball. You relax, Matt. We'll be fine.
Wow, Mac has become he's almost become almost like he's the Yankees version of a Phillies fan when he's
like a Yankees
playoffs is perfect. That's all he needs now. He's settled on the playoffs.
I want pennants.
Must be what happens as you get older. You just settle for the playoffs.
Who doesn't want pennants? Come on, who doesn't want pennants? Every team wants pennants. Every team wants.
Yankees are World Series or bust. Playoffs or bust is like a Met motto. I mean, let's not confuse the teams here. Okay.
I feel like the Atlanta Braves are closer to winning another World Series than we are right now.
Well, the Nationals sure are. I mean, they got the pitching staff. We don't got that yet, Matt, and that's not Boone's fault.
No, because you had the pitching staff. Because in an ideal situation right now, your pitching staff this year would have been Cole, Severino, Herman,
Tanaka.
And Tanaka. That's a good rotation.
Listen, that's a lot of teams don't have what we have. Even when it's just
That's
Cold and Tanaka, that 1-2 right there, that's still a top 7 1-2 combo starting combo in the.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know. I don't know.
Name 7 better starting 1-2s in Major League Baseball.
All right, Stroman and DeGrom. There's one.
Okay.
I didn't even have to.
I mean, that's off the top, and that's without Googling anything. Listen.
Okay. So that's
I got more. Scherzer and Strasburg. That's 2. Kershaw and Bueller. That's 3. I can name them all day. I just pull up the thing. I mean,
yeah, right. I'm lucky to make.
I'm still not wrong. I'm still right.
I'm lucky to be. I'm lucky to be on the show.
He's not an ace anymore.
I'm lucky to be on the show. Never mind Googling while I'm doing the show. You know, I'm old school here, man. Take it easy.
The internet's working. The clock didn't go off. I mean,
we're making progress.
But you brought up a good point. Speaking of, you mentioned Baltimore, but it's not really towards Baltimore. But I want to discuss today sleeper picks. So, and what I want to do is I want to try to figure out from you guys. It's a 60-game season. It's short. Teams can get hot like that. You know, I don't know if I believe Baltimore can get hot like that because their rotation looks like they held tryouts at the local Target. But a team gets hot, all it takes is one hot month. You play one hot month, 10 games over, and then you maintain 500 in the second month, and you're probably in the playoffs. You know what I mean? If you finish the season 10 over, you're in. So I want to look at these sleeper teams and kind of get an idea from each of us on who you might pick as a sleeper team that's not obvious to win. You're not picking the Dodgers. Can't throw out the Mets or the Nationals. Those because the Mets are almost a playoff team. I'm talking about a team that was, not good last year, not even close. Who is your sleeper team? So I'll start off just to give you an idea what I'm thinking here. So my sleeper team, and I'm predicting them to win the division, is the Chicago White Sox. I think the Chicago White Sox are going to win their division. They went 72-89 last year. Okay, let me hear me out. I want details when you pick somebody. They added arguably the second best catcher in baseball after Rio Muto with Grandal, who plays defense, hits homers, gets on base. They added to the rotation. Giolito is finally an ace. Giolito looked like the ace. Yoan Moncada had a great season last year. And all their rookie stars who hit for a lot of power are up. Jimenez, Luis Robert, Nick Madrigal, they're all up. They're 3 studs. These were Jimenez and Robert were 2 of the top 10 prospects in baseball. And they're both up everyday outfielders now in their 21, 22, 23-year range. They added Edwin Encarnacion, who no matter how old he gets, if you put him at DH, he still hits 30 home runs. He did it for the Yankees. It doesn't matter. He's not out the field. So does Stanton.
I agree.
And Encarnacion makes like $15 million less than Stanton a year. So, think about that problem. They added Dallas Keuchel. They added Grandal. They added Encarnacion. Nomar Mazara from Texas to round out the outfield. Steve Chisek, and they brought back Jose Abreu. I have the White Sox not only as my sleeper, I have the White Sox winning the division over the Twins. That's how strong I feel about the White Sox. So, Matt, who's your sleeper?
The Los Angeles Angels are my sleeper pick, man. I believe after going 72-90 last year, they lost a lot of close games, man. A lot of 1-run, 2-run games with those guys. They got that guy, Mr. Ohtani, Shohei Ohtani, who's going to come back healthy. He's a great player. He could carry that team by himself. They signed Anthony Rendon. They have the top prospect, Joe Adele. He'll be playing in the outfield for them in all likelihood. I would imagine he'll be there for opening day. Bullpen, not great. Could use some work, but I believe that they're not going to be a seller. They're going to be a buyer. That Angels team will, and in that division they're in, they can more than succeed against the other teams in that division right now. They don't, like I said, they don't have the best pitching, like as far as the bullpen is concerned in that division, and even at all. But as long as you got guys like Mike Trout, you've got these top prospects coming in, you've got Otani, they're going to be really good. I think they're going to bounce back and have a big time year, the Angels.
Well, let me ask you a question before I ask Matt for his pick. Is if Trout, because he said he's still on the fence, if Trout sits out, I assume that's not your sleeper team anymore, right?
Yeah, if Mike Trout sits, this is all contingent on Mike Trout playing. And if Mike Trout doesn't play, then that really changes the whole situation, because without Mike Trout, you just take away all kinds of production. You're talking about 110 runs. You're talking about 137 hits. You're talking about 104 RBIs. A guy batting 291 last year in 470 at bats, and you can't just go out the door and throw that away like it's nothing.
That's right. Not the best player in the sport. Mac, who's your sleeper team?
Well, I'm not going to go into names and go crazy with a bunch of information with you guys, but I like the Reds having a shot at getting the playoffs. I mean, they got a lot of first and third and basemen that are DH types, and the DH is alive this year, so that's going to help them out. Their bullpen doesn't have to be as strong because it's not 162 games. So, I mean, they don't have to pitch all the time in that. Their starting rotation is a little shaky, but it's not bad. And plus, they have a high percentage games against Detroit and Kansas City, and that should help any team out this year.
And you talk about, we were just talking about, top two pitchers in baseball. They have a top two rotation better than the Yankees. They have Bauer and Castillo are as good as
the last 3-4 are a little shaky, so we'll see what happens.
They are in a division. They could, if the Cubs underachieve, they could, sneak in there.
The thing about the Reds is that they're playing a majority of their games are going to be against Detroit and Kansas City. And as far as the rest of that division is concerned, then it's not great. So where the Reds have their advantage, I believe, Mac, to kind of further your point, is that they're not going to have to go deep into their bullpen just due to the lack of innings that we're going to have. They're not going to have to stretch out those guys over a long period of time. 62 innings and things like that, but they've got an easier strength of schedule than the Twins, Cardinals, Indians, Cubs, and Brewers. They've got the easiest strength of schedule right there, and so they could very much come into the NL playoff race and gain some traction at the end there. And you're right, the Reds are a good pick there.
Maybe sneaking even as a wild card. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
I do want to throw in a couple other teams people should keep an eye on. The San Diego Padres have a chance to be really good. I mean, they might arguably have the best infield in baseball with Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., who had an amazing season, Eric Hosmer, who still can pick it. They had the best closer in baseball last year in Kirby Yates, who was the number one closer. Chris Paddock's great top of the line rotation starter. They added Tommy Pham, Emilio Pagan, Drew Pomeranz. You look out for San Diego, and they have one of the better farm systems, too, in baseball with Mackenzie Gore coming up this year. San Diego is about to jump off. I mean, they're not going to win the division because the Dodgers are just, in my opinion, the best team in all of baseball, roster-wise, on paper at least. I mean, you always got to factor in what will happen, who will play, who will get sick, whatever. But on paper, the Dodgers have the best roster in baseball, but the Padres could very easily win a wild card. And it's a team like the Padres or teams like the Reds, because, the Reds after the Cubs, the Reds are probably the best in that division. It's teams like the Padres and it's teams like the Reds that if you're a Mets fan, you got to say the Mets got to win and win often, because the Padres are going to be in the hunt for a playoff spot. The Reds are going to be in the hunt for a playoff spot. And if the Padres are not winning the division, I can tell you that there's only so many wild card spots, because they're not going to. Another team you should keep an eye out on, not to so much make the playoffs, but I think they could knock around a little bit the Yankees and the Rays and kind of cause trouble for them, is Toronto.
Yeah, good hitters.
They signed Hyun-Ring Yu, or whatever his name is, in the offseason. They have Nate Pearson, the number one pitching prospect in baseball, is about to make his debut this year. They have three excellent young hitters in Bichette, Biggio, and Guerrero. Mm-hmm. And they're not ready yet to probably, with their bullpen, challenge for a playoff spot. But take notice, because sometime in the next 2 or 3 years, it's not going to be just the Yankees and Rays battling anymore. The Blue Jays are going to be in there. Because once the Blue Jays, they have a lot of young pitching prospects. Once all those pitching prospects come up, they're going to be dangerous. Because I don't know if you've seen how often you've watched Guerrero Jr. and Bichette and these guys hit. These guys can rake. I was watching a video the other day of Guerrero Jr. hitting bombs. I mean, he was hitting bombs. This guy can hit. I wish he was a Met. So those are a couple teams to look out for. There's some I didn't realize some of these records from last year, but Detroit went 47 and 114. Oh my Lord. 114.
How do you become that bad as a baseball team?
Oh, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. And just trade everybody. Don't spend any money. Miguel Cabrera still there? No, he went somewhere else. He's somewhere else, right? Yeah, I don't know. I lose track of where these guys go, but
I don't know.
I mean, it's here's the good thing about Detroit. Detroit might have the best set of arms in the minor leagues of any team. And when Matt Manning, Casey Mize, Tariq Skubal, when all of those guys come up, they're going to be really good one day. So they have a bright future. It's probably still a few years away, but they have a lot of young prospects. And I was looking at Baltimore, 54 and 108. Oh,
Kansas City, talk about a fall from grace. We talk about the Kansas City Royals. They were so hot for a few years there in the middle. They were real bad. They were real good, and then they were real bad again.
Pitching.
They had it for a little while.
Yeah, they had that 1 year run. You look at Baltimore; Baltimore might be with Detroit the worst team in baseball. I mean, I would be surprised if the Yankees even lost the game to Baltimore.
Guys, a lot is the way teams are managed today. When you used to have I go back to Billy Martin, Earl Weaver, managers like this that played attack baseball. They didn't have the greatest players in the world. They were disciplinarians. They were coaches. They weren't just managers. And they bunted. They did double steals. They did squeeze plays. They did hit and runs. And I think the only way teams like this can get competitive is to bring the young guys up, because they can't afford to go out there and buy two great pitchers and they just can't do it. They can't afford it. So they're going to have to do what these managers did old school wise. Bring the young guys up from the farm system. Start playing attack baseball on offense. I mean, stealing, double stealing, hit and runs, sacrifices, and have a running team, a good young running team that can run the bases like crazy, put pressure on the defense of the other teams, and have some really good basic fielders that are good at the basics of baseball. Other than that, these teams can't compete right now with the big markets because they can't afford to.
Yeah, and you look, and it's also, you got to also factor in the GM, because, like, for example, Baltimore, they traded their best player in the offseason, Villar, to Miami. I mean, they don't have anything working right now, Baltimore. They're years away. They're waiting for their top prospecting catcher, Aldi Rutschman, to come up, but he's still 2 years away. They don't have a lot going for them. Kansas City doesn't have a lot. Kansas City, Detroit, Baltimore are probably your bottom three teams again this year, record-wise. But speaking of records, so Fangraphs, which is my go-to site for depth charts and stuff, because they do a great job and they show players' salaries. They put out their predictions yesterday. And so I saw an article on the Mets and Yankees. So the Fangraphs project that the Yankees will win the AL East with a 35-25 record, and that the Rays will finish second, 33-34-26, somewhere in there. So the Yankees will beat the Rays for the division by 1 game. They have that the Dodgers and Astros will be locked for the playoffs, and that they'll have the best records in the AL and NL. So people are still high on the Astros. They have the Mets going to the wild card, but only with a record of 32-28, 4 games over 500. So,
if the Yankees lose 25 games and the Mets lose 28 games, the Yankees aren't losing 25 games this year.
What do you mean? That's still 10 games. You're only playing 60. So that's still 35-25.
They're not losing 25. Watch what I tell you. They're going to be one of the best teams in baseball. They're not going to lose.
So, well, that would still be, according to Fangraphs, 35-25 would still be the second best record in baseball. So
they're not going 10 plus. They'll go more than that, and there'll be teams better than them probably. You'll see.
You think so? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
There's going to be teams in a 60-something game schedule. You might have teams with like Detroit. They might win single-digit games.
All right. So
You know
what are the Yankees going to go then?
I don't know.
Give me a win total. Just give me a win total.
Yankees are going to win 39 games, 40 games.
So you have basically 40-20.
Basically, yeah.
Basically. Okay.
And that's so hard to say. I mean, listen, they're at Baltimore. Even in their worst years, they have a couple week winning sprees where they're winning 8 out of 10 games, man. So I mean, this is impossible to predict.
Well, I think it's harder to predict, not because I'm worried about Baltimore, because I think the Yankees are going to steamroll Baltimore this year because they don't have Villar, they don't have Trey Mancini. I think it's harder to predict just because of the fact that you don't know who's going to get the virus during the season.
Listen, the Yankees put together a big winning streak near the end of the season. They're not a fast jump out team. They play below 500 sometimes in the first couple of months before they warm up. This is the end of the season is the start of the season. I ain't taking nothing for granted. I think the Yankees will do fine, but I don't know, man. They don't have. I'm gonna say it again. They don't have a good starting rotation, and I know they're
not allowed to say 40-20.
I don't think I'll be happy if the Yankees just win their division. I don't care if they win 35, 32, as long as they win their division, and hopefully all our players start getting warmed up for the playoffs, and maybe in this short season we go to the World Series and do something. But I ain't counting no team out. I don't care how bad
the virus. You can't, because could you imagine how devastating it would be to the Yankees if Garrett Cole had to sit out a month with the coronavirus? Devastating. He's the one guy you can't lose.
Suppose he pulls a hamstring. Never mind the virus. He pulls a hamstring off his leg. I mean, anything can happen. And if he's out for 45 days or 30 days, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? And listen, we have no idea, man. This is not a marathon anymore. This is not wait until August, September. Yeah, man.
But I mean, this is why they bet. This is why they bet on the games. I mean, this is what
We might see some really good baseball, though. Like, we might see some really, really good baseball. They need to come up with that pitch clock, though. They need to come up with that pitch clock, speed these games up. We can't have these guys playing that many games in so short a period of time. And some of these games running 15, 16, 17 innings. That's not going to work. Like, you imagine you have to play 15 innings or 16 innings, and then you go the next day and have to play baseball. You got to travel and stuff like that. It's crazy. Did you guys look at the miles traveled for the season? Who's traveling the most? Who's traveling the least?
No, who's traveling?
So, right now, the most right now is the Texas Rangers are traveling just over 14,000 miles total, 14,700 miles. The traveling the least is the White Sox. They're traveling only 4,750 miles. The top 5 most traveling teams this year is going to be the Rangers, the Astros, the Mariners, the Athletics, the Rockies. Those are going to be your top 5. The Rays are going to travel at 10,000 miles roughly, and then the bottom 6 are around 3,000 to 4,000 miles traveled on the year. All these things are going to be factors. All these things are going to be factors. How are they traveling?
See, I don't know if I get too concerned about the travel, only because of the fact that during a regular season they travel a lot more. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but brother, 14,000 miles in 65 days, like that is not a light task.
We're talking about first class flying here. How bad could it be?
I'm wondering if like the more profitable team, like say the Yankees, they got their own plane, they'll fly privately, they have all their own private interests.
Well, all the teams do. I fly first class because I'm bougie. Bougie as hell.
Yeah, that's fine. But like, does does Kansas City have their own private charters? Does Tampa Bay have their own private charters? Tampa Bay doesn't fly privately. Those Tampa Bay guys, they fly out of Tampa International or Fort
Lauderdale. Yeah, but when they fly them, they get the whole plane to themselves. So.
No, they don't. They do not.
They do. There's no chance that they're putting their players next to.
They fly on the airplanes.
I'm gonna look that up, and if so, you owe me $5.
They don't. They do not always fly privately.
And Texas being one of the most traveled, of course, it's one of the biggest states in the country. So I mean that only makes sense. Guys, when I was in the service, I drove home from New Mexico. It took me 3 days to get home. A day and a half was straight through Texas, man. That's ridiculous.
Okay, here we go. Hold on. No Major League Baseball team has their own plane. So you can clear that up. None of them. Every Major League he made me look this up. Every Major League Baseball team has a licensing agreement with one of the airlines. The Yankees use Delta. Tampa uses Delta. They're all either with Delta or United. And when the baseball teams fly, they fly with only baseball personnel, sports writers, and announcers covering the team. That's it.
So it's not just like a private team plane where it's them.
Like private, but not. You know what I mean? It only put people that are involved in the sport. So
There's
the writers,
on there.
like the writers, like if we had a writer's pass, we could get on the plane and kind of talk to them while it's in the air or whatever. But nobody else.
But they're not putting grandma on there or Uncle Joey with them, you know.
No, Uncle Joey's got to walk this year.
They're not going to let them guys on a plane with him. Who knows who
So me personally, living in a state like New Jersey where you can bet on sports, I love to get in, mix it up, and put some bets down. So I looked up the odds for this year because I'm big on put your money where your mouth is. So I'm going to give Matt a chance to see if he's ready to put some money down. Not against me. Not against me. You're going to go place the wager, online. Send me the money. I'll place the wager for him in Jersey because I know in Florida you can't gamble.
Can't do it.
So the Yankees total for the Vegas Atlantic City line is 36.5 is their total. You want to send me some money and I'll put it on the over for you since you said 40. What?
Take the over for me on that for sure.
They have the second highest number total. The Dodgers are first at 37.
I believe that, but give me the over. The Yankees are definitely.
Send me $10 to win. $10 to win 22.
I'll pay $10 to win 22. Look, before we round out, did we talk about the strength of schedule for some of these teams? Cincinnati having the easiest schedule in the new 2020 schedule, and Seattle having the most difficult based on the opponents' win percentage and schedule from previous years. They have the Yankees dead flat, 0 in the middle.
I thought the Mets had a hard schedule this year.
The Mets are sitting right around a negative .002, I think, as far as the strength of opposing schedule. So they're on the easier side of things. They have the Yankees splitting the middle, and then it goes Oakland, KC, Philly, Atlanta, Houston, Detroit, Miami, Pitt, Toronto, Boston, Baltimore, Colorado, San Francisco, the Angels, Arizona, Texas, Seattle for the hardest. Cincinnati has the easiest, St. Louis the second easiest, Minnesota, Cleveland, and Chicago the third and fourth bid.
Michael said every game will feel like a playoff game. Except for no fans. Just a little thing here. The Central Division, which is the AL Central and the NL Central, the pitching staffs are not that strong and says the Twins should feast on them. And they say that the NL and AL West are going to be a good division for hitters this year, especially with Garrett Cole gone. So we're down the stretch here. Let's discuss what's coming up. So as far as I understand, tell everybody a little bit. We have a Mets writer coming up this week. Tell us about
that. We definitely have a couple of guests this week. So
tell us about baseball.
I think everybody should know the guest week coming up. But definitely Greg Prince is coming up. He's a famous author with the Mets. He's wrote like 4 books. He started really becoming a fan back in '69, which was the first time I started following the Mets. Of course, they won that World Series that year with that great pitching staff they had. He's wrote books like about Mike Piazza. He's wrote books about Amazing Again. He has another book that is more of a team, a dugout book. But I'll let him explain everything to us when he comes on Monday. But it'll be great having. We had our Yankees writer in here a week or two back, so we're to be fair to the Mets, and to share some knowledge. We got Greg Prince coming in.
Study now live or just books?
I'm not sure. I again, when I touch base with him, I touch base about his books. I would imagine it's been recent too, Jim. These books have, it's been in succession. So he's pretty much into the Mets.
What time is he coming on for the?
Well, he's coming on Monday for us. He's coming to phone interview at 4 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so right off the top of the hour, and like I said, we'll be able to share some. He knows a lot about the Mets, and and maybe we'll get his opinions on the newer Mets. What about this season and everything? What was his favorite book? So we'll be asking him a lot of questions, and it'll be interesting to see what he's got to say about the current baseball system too.
Right.
And just a quick throw in, Wednesday at 5, we do have a former heavyweight champion of the world's coming on Wednesday at 5. So I mean, you guys like boxing and you want to
kill my audience, my baseball.
Well, listen, I'm hoping that there's sports fans too. So if you want to talk to one of the a former heavyweight champion, I won't mention his name until we get closer.
That's because nobody would guess it. So
I think they would, Jim. I think they would, but that's okay.
I'm kidding. He's got the boxing guys coming out, the yin yang, because we're trying to promote boxing. So you try to promote boxing and do what you can. On the other side of things, happy to announce that we officially now have a Yankee insider. So he'll be coming on once a week, either live or taped segment based on how the schedule works out to report on the comings and goings of the Yankees. I have insiders for all the hockey teams. So, I mean,
beautiful.
If we were on the NHL network, we would be in, but we're not.
Right.
So I'm still working on trying to find an insider for the Mets and the Giants and the Jets. It's a process, it's a week-to-week thing, hitting the pavement and trying to, upgrade. If you like the show some support. All we're asking you to do is go to either Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook and like our pages or follow us. That's it. Not asking for money. Just asking for a little like or a little follow. Nothing. Share, promote. It helps us out. The more people we get watching, the sooner we could get hopefully some sponsors. It allows us to then broad out and reach a bigger audience. Maybe you get tired of listening to WFAN. I know I do sometimes. You want to listen to Maggie and Moose, or you want to listen to us three knuckleheads? You better. The more sponsors we get, the quicker we could get on the air in other ways to give you guys more ways to reach us, so that maybe you could be in your car and listen or do this and that. So work on that. All you got to do is like us, follow us on Twitter, whatever you could do.
Go to YouTube too, guys, and subscribe. We got some great interviews on there that of the past guests, very very good, very well done, put together by Jim here. So go ahead and check that out. Our website is awesome. It rivals ESPN's. Check that out. That is a place where we have our own writers doing their thing for us, and it's an awesome site.
A lot of good writers, yeah. And then tomorrow, as you know, we got football. Bake Up with Football. We're going to talk about the ever coming and going of Baker. I mean, I don't even know what to. This is like a soap opera. I mean, I don't even know what to believe, but we'll get into that. You got the law enforcement's telling you that Baker is paying off witnesses. You got Baker's lawyer saying he's not, which I wouldn't expect him to say anything else, because if the lawyer took part in paying off witnesses, he's going to go to jail. So who the hell knows what's going on with them? We're going to talk about Rojas is still a Giant. So I don't know what's going on with them either, but he's still there. We'll talk about some football news. We got people talking about contracts. We'll talk about them coming up. We'll talk about Nate Solder's comment about if it's not safe, we shouldn't play. I'll cut into him a little bit because I told people on Facebook yesterday he don't block anyone anyway, so what's it matter, if he plays or not. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about football, and we'll hit the pavement running with a lot of things. For the coming weeks, Mac already said, Mets guy on Monday, Boxer on Wednesday. We're going to, hopefully in August, we're going to be debuting a new show. I'm not going to spoil the name of it yet, but think, think along the lines of, you ever see the movie Grumpy Old Men? That. So,
that's perfect. That's going to be it.
That's about what you're looking at. Listen, we take anyone that's willing to talk sports. We don't care. We don't care. There's room for everybody here. So
I don't know about anyone, but mostly.
As long as you're professional and you put up a good product, we'll consider you, right?
Absolutely. We've got.
What am I doing here? Let me get out of here. Randall.
We've got. You're hanging out in the Harry Potter studio today.
Hey, don't talk about.
I love Harry Potter.
I keep I keep waiting for that bookcase to move and there be a.
Is that like his green screen? Did he green screen? Okay.
I think there's a secret passage behind there, big guy. I know there is. There's some room back there that Matt has. That's like
money.
I don't think it's money. I think he's got something back there.
Yeah. We've got our podcast. Our podcast is launching in August. It's a totally different show. It's not just a replay of this show or any show that we do now. It's not a replay. It's a fresh show with different content that can only be listened to through the podcast. We've got we have our YouTube channel up now where we stick our interviews and stuff like that, but we're going to also in August be debuting a separate YouTube channel that has its own name and its own content that will also be its own individual shows. So like you go to Big Guy Sports on YouTube now, you're basically just watching either a replay of an interview we gave with like Bob Arum or somebody, or you're watching sections of the show, just like we put on our website. That's what that's for. The Big Guy Sports YouTube channel is for replays, but we're putting out a different YouTube channel that will be separate content with videos and everything from what you see live. So we're going to give you more content, stuff that you can watch between the podcast and the YouTube channel, both launching in August. It'll be stuff that you could watch on your own time, as opposed to the show where it's kind of like you got to catch it live. This will be something that is totally separate, shorter segments too. You know, the podcast will be like around 30 to 40 minutes an episode, and the YouTube channel, the YouTube videos will be like 20 minutes or so. So it'll be something you can watch and sink your teeth into, and you're sitting around drinking, eating, and just like, oh, what am I going to watch on the internet? What am I going to stream right now? We got those coming. We're bringing on people every day. If you know anybody who loves sports and wants to get involved, whether they want to do a show, a podcast, want to talk sports, want to be an insider, want to write, send them our way. Get in on the ground floor now, because a year from now, this could be something really special, and you want to have been in on it when it, takes off. As Alexander mentioned, for your sports nuts, we got the Red Bulls tonight at 8:00. New York soccer team after NYCFC lost 1-0 yesterday. I was watching that game, and they're just about getting eliminated from the tournament. They have to win out now. So we have two New York soccer teams in the MLS. One of them is has to win out to have a shot to advance in the tournament. Red Bulls are still alive for so far. So they're tonight. UFC 251 is tonight also.
Watching that one.
If you like some fighting, you get yourself some whiskey, some tequila, a beer, sit down and watch the UFC, right? That's how I would do it. I get my
whiskey, tequila, and beer. I like to watch fighting. I don't.
No, I said one or the other.
I start fighting.
Jim has them all lined up. He has a couple cigars over here, and he just goes to town.
I'm ready. I gotta watch it. I mean, right now I would watch Betty White and Bill Clinton shuffleboard competition just to get some sports flow. It doesn't matter, So Justin's a big Red Bull fan. I'm going to message him as soon as we're done to see why he's not voting for me as commissioner. I'm assuming that's what the WTF was about. So he's going to get a message from me. But other than that, everything's going forward and been solid. We just keep doing what we do. So we got a lot of exciting shows coming up this week. And we're only, as I said before, 12 days for opening day?
For a lot of stuff.
Days. And then it'll be like a blur. Baseball will start. You'll blink, and a week later, basketball will be playing. And then a day later, hockey will be playing. And just like that, we'll have gone from talking about anything we can find to reviewing and breaking down the sports. Justin says I'm not qualified.
Damn.
We used
cold.
We used to be close. I don't know what happened. I must have
treated you really bad today.
I know. I must have said something bad to him. I don't know. We used to be really close, and now he's dug me.
Yeah. He took a shot at you there. Bro.
Yeah, it's a shame. We were close. I don't know what happened. We were building a friendship. Now we're
some sort of betrayal. I feel like he betrayed you a little bit.
I know. I think I must have betrayed him first.
Yeah,
it's like revenge.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Justin doesn't seem to be the type of person that just lashes out. I think there was a reason behind that, Jim. I think you should be doing some soul searching right now, Jim. I really believe.
I should, or he should.
You should, Jim. I know that.
So,
I know.
You're gonna need mediation. You're gonna need mediation
yeah.
We
to
might-
repair that relationship. I think.
Maybe if I just like send a I'm sorry without knowing what I did wrong, that's good enough.
Yeah, but you got to put like a heart after it too. Don't just say I'm sorry. Anybody can say that, Jim. Please send an emoji or something, please.
We're always on the same page, Justin and I. Like every topic on Facebook, we're on the same page.
What
Jim,
about
before we go?
Mhm.
Before we go, Jim, let me ask you a question. Who had more RBIs last year, Cody Bellinger or Alex Bregman?
I don't know
Go.
the answer, but I feel like it's Cody Bellinger.
I'm going with Alex, man.
Who is
Are
it?
you going with Alex?
Yeah.
It was Cody Bellinger. He had 115. Alex Bregman had 112. There's your fun
Jesus.
fact for wake up
There you go.
ball on
Cody
Saturday
Bellinger
morning.
is a stud.
Yes.
He is, man. There's some Christian Yelich, Cody Bellinger. There's some guys in the MLB right now. Yelich, Trout, Bellinger, Cruz, Bregman, Rendon. Those guys are just the future is bright.
We're going to get to see them. We're done for the day. Enjoy your Saturdays and Sundays. Justin, let's talk. Let's make up. We're done. We're done for the day. We'll see y'all tomorrow for the football show. Tomorrow, good thing is we're going to let me just throw this out there. Starting tomorrow, we are going to do not individual, as a group. We are going to release starting at the back, starting at team 32. We are going to break down how we rank the teams 1 to 32 as a network, and we're going to do 4 teams a week with in-depth analysis for a show. So we're going to start tomorrow. Will be who the Big Guy Sports Network ranked as teams 29 through 32. Will be tomorrow, and we're going to do 4 a week for the next 8 weeks and break down and see where we rank our teams going into this season. But they're going to be averaged out as a group. We're not going to be like I name a team, he names a team, he names. That'll take forever. So we'll break it down, analysis. You guys be good, have fun, enjoy the UFC, enjoy the soccer, and thanks for chipping in.
Have a good one, guys.